Previously, on Fear of the Demon Hunters, Vivianne Sobreya had an uncomfortable agreement with the Demon Queen, Fear herself. Fear is pretending to be a girl named Reva Arvos with the power to track demons so that she can sneak into the Predator Coalition of Demon Hunters' base and steal an artifact called the Demonotrix. The Demonotrix allows you to channel the powers of any demon Fear has made. Vivianne agreed to not say anything about Reva's plan so long as Fear didn't hurt anyone in the Coalition, and she kept quiet about knowing that Vivianne herself had a secret demon form as the Hornet Demon Hemynopoda. Vivianne works for the Coalition out of guilt for what she did in this form in the past. While they were all headed back to the base, their Coalition jet was attacked by two flying demons. Fear and fellow hunter Jax were torn from the jet, and Viv jumped out after them with a parachute that she soon ditched to try and save Jax in her demon form. Jax went unconscious in the fall, but all three of them lived, and the flying demons were defeated. They landed in the forest in Fiji, and after seeing how weak Fear had become, Viv attempted to finish off the Demon Queen herself. She got the drop on Fear, but couldn't bring herself to finish the girl off, getting some slight sense that Fear herself regretted some of the things she'd done. Fear also said that she wanted the Demonotrix so that she could channel the powers of an Archon demon, making her able to take out some of the most powerful and lethal demons in the multiverse. Not to mention powerful enough to take out the demon general Zuphiathan, who is actively hunting Fear, thinking that killing her will make him the ruler of all demons. Viv proposes a new deal to Fear so that Vivianne will be the one to use the Demonotrix. Fear will then help her kill Zuphiathan and the Archons. Fear seemed like she may be on board with this plan, but before answering, Jax awoke in shock to see Vivianne in her demon form, holding Fear herself pinned to the ground with a long stinger blade stuck through her shoulder. Little heads up that I'm going to be doing 3 drawings in this episode, but I'm just going to speak right through the reveal of the 3 drawings being finished up until the last one, so that the flow of the story doesn't get interrupted. Anyway, now on to Fear of the Demon Hunters Chapter 3. Vivianne stared at Jax, practically paralyzed. She was in her full demon form. Technically, he shouldn't be able to recognize her. What? Who's Vivianne? He interrupted. Is that Fear herself? What are you doing, Viv? Finish her off while you have a chance! Viv looked down at Fear, who just rolled her eyes. Viv looked back at him. Wait, you're not surprised that I'm a demon? No, I kind of already knew, but figured you wanted it to stay a secret. But I am surprised that you have the Demon Queen pinned down and you're not taking her out. Wait, is she the kid from the beach, Reva? Reva was really Fear? Oh, how did I not see that? She basically looks just like her, and Reva is so close to Arava. Fear's tears dried as she snarled. Hey! A tendril flung up from the ground and shoved Viv off her. Fear grabbed the stinger in her shoulder and tore it out. She stood up and marched towards Jax.
Who told you my real name?
Jax looked around anxiously as if for a weapon, but his bat was nowhere to be seen. Viv ran in between them. Hey, stop it, okay? Not hurting anyone is part of the deal, remember, Reva? Wait, your real name is Arava and you seriously went with Reva?
Quit using that name. You can call me Reva or Fear herself, or you can get torn apart by my tendrils.
Jax looked at Viv, eyeing her demon form up and down. Viv, what's going on? Why are you and Fear talking like you're working together? Viv was terrified of what he'd say, but she knew there was no backing out of explaining everything now. Or, at least, most things. She turned back to her human form, then started an edited version of her tale, still terrified of what anyone's reaction might be to what she'd done as Hemynopoda back in the Colorado campgrounds. As she sped through the details of that part, she worried that Fear may interrupt and illuminate Jax on what had actually happened, but thankfully she kept quiet. What Viv did share was that she'd been hunted and nearly killed by the insect demon Entomantis because of her once immense fear of bugs. Fear had then found her and tried turning her body into a demon, but her soul had managed to hang on to her body and eventually take back control, while still having the power to turn into the demon Hemynopoda. She used her powers to fight other demons as part of the coalition, while pretending she was actually using her throwing knives to hunt. She then explained everything that had happened with Reva, or Fear herself, and the new deal they'd just about struck. So, that's where we are now. I'm guessing Fear was going to say that she's on board. Viv turned back to Fear for confirmation. The girl crossed her arms.
I mean, I was gonna say yes, but that's probably out the window now that this one knows about us,
she said, referring to Jax. Viv turned back to Jax, still unsure of what he'd say. She hadn't even told him about all the blood on her hands, but even this could have been enough to make him rat her out to Tamika, the others, or, worst of all, to Clayton. Jax took a beat and let it all sink in, then said, "All right, I'm in." "What?" Viv exclaimed without thinking. Fear just raised an eyebrow at him. Viv shook her head. You're just okay with us working with Fear herself?" He looked down and dragged his foot through the dirt. "No, I hate that part of it. I've imagined bashing her head in with my bat 100 times over everything she's done. But I want to be on the right side of a situation like this for once. I mean, look what happened to Koshmara. When she got her demon powers, everyone was scared of her or outright hated on her. Some even threatened to kill her like Clayton, and now she's like the most famous and powerful demon hunter the Coalition's ever seen. And I was one of the people who treated her like garbage. She hadn't even done anything wrong, but I just sat back and let Clayton treat her terribly. What's worse is, I kinda hoped during that time that she would go crazy and we'd have to take her out so that I could justify that I never stood up for her. I've apologized to her since, but still, ever since then I've just felt like such a pathetic coward." Viv wanted to comfort him, but Fear snarled.
Probably on account of you being a pathetic coward.
Viv shot her an angry look. Jax snarled back. "You're one to talk, always sending demons to do your dirty work, Arava."
"Call me that one more time,"
Fear said, stomping towards him. Viv stuck out her arm to stop her. "Quit it! It's your name! Why do you care who uses it?"
"Only my friends get to call me that,"
she growled. "So, nobody?" Jax growled back.
"I'm gonna kill him."
Fear lunged forward, but Viv just caught her with her hand and held her back like a struggling toddler. "Stop it!" Viv thought she'd turned a corner with Fear, but now she was just back to acting like an insufferable monster. Or, more accurately, like an insufferable child. "Look, as much as this is a weird situation, we're all in it together now, and we have the possibility of doing something really good. Jax, please, just call her Reva. And Reva, show a little compassion. You're directly responsible for the deaths of a lot of Jax's friends." She set Fear down beside her. Fear replied,
"Yeah, well that's what they get for being on the Coalition and not letting people deal with their demons themselves. You people are hurting him more than I am."
Jax's teeth audibly clamped together. He ran at Fear and tackled her. Viv just clapped a hand over her face. Jax punched Fear in the head over and over and over, but the Demon Queen just chuckled.
"You punch like a double amputee baby."
He tried hitting harder, but it didn't do much. Finally, he looked to the hole in her shoulder where the stinger had been impaled. He drove his thumb into it, and finally, Fear shrieked in pain, but quickly tried to hide it.
Yeah, keep it up. Maybe if you hurt me enough, that'll bring your little girlfriend back. Avery, right? Was easier living with yourself as a pathetic coward when she was by your side being one too, huh?
Jax froze. For a second, it looked like he'd try hitting harder again. But he didn't. His eyes started to water, and he just got up and turned. "Maybe I can't hurt you as much as you've hurt me, but I bet being a miserable witch like you and having to live with yourself every day is torture enough. Avery may not have been perfect, she wasn't great to Koshmara either, but at least having had her in my life means I know what it's like to have someone genuinely care about me. If anyone has ever cared about you, I bet they regret it." Fear's own eyes swelled with rage, and she thrust a hand up. 4 tentacles burst from the ground around Jax. Before they could do anything, Viv shifted back into her demon form, grabbed Fear off the ground, and shoved her against a tree. "Enough, Reva! What are you doing? Why are you trying to ruin this? Jax may not like you, but at least he's willing to help."
"I don't want help from a loser who doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut."
"Stop it, Reva. You said you'd never be able to make up for the things you've done, but you might have a chance now if you actually make some effort. Just do better. You're already in a deep pit of horrible things you've done, but if you really want to get out, you've got to start climbing, not keep digging deeper. Fear did all she could to avoid eye contact. She was panting like a scared, cornered animal.
Why not dig deeper? There's too far to climb now.
That was when it clicked for Vivian, why Fear was sabotaging her chance to do something genuinely good. But it also gave her an idea that may be sort of silly, but Vivian also thought it had a real chance to work. Viv set Fear down and held out a hand. Hi, I'm Vivianne Sobreya, and with me, you're starting on solid ground. Fear looked up at her curiously.
What are you talking about?
I'm wiping the slate clean, and you're on solid ground with me. There's no history here, no pit that you're buried in already. But that means you actually have to take responsibility. Every time you do something terrible, you start digging yourself a new pit. But every time you do something genuinely good, you're building a foundation as someone who really does want to do good things for people. As a genuinely good person. Fear rolled her eyes.
You can't seriously just pretend to stop hating me for turning you into a demon. And for everything that came with that.
Viv stared more intently. Yes, I can. I can pretend that you deserve my respect and help, and you can pretend that too. Then, if you can stick to doing good things, maybe one day we can both stop pretending, and it'll just be true. Viv couldn't tell what expressions were flashing on Fear's face, but there were a lot of them. Viv looked over at Jax. Well, any chance you're on board too? His teeth were still clenched, and he looked like he wanted to attack Fear again, but he crossed his arms and looked away. Well, I think she's gonna dig a new pit pretty fast, but fine. Solid ground. Viv suddenly noticed a thick stench of fear wafting around her, but she knew it wasn't from her. It was coming from Reva. More pungent than ever. Viv looked at her, and Reva was just staring at Jax in confusion. Viv asked, "Are you okay?" Reva whipped her head back. "What? Yeah, fine. I'll play along too. Solid ground." She cautiously took Viv's hand and shook, surprisingly timidly. Viv nodded as confidently as she could, then walked closer to Jax as she shifted back into her human form. She pulled her phone out of her pants pocket, saying, "I'm gonna call Tamika. The plane looked like it kept flying after the demons attacked." Jax tilted his head as she swiped through numbers. Did your phone just, merge with you when you, transformed?" Viv nodded. "Oh, yeah, my clothes just kinda meld with me, so whatever's in my pockets does too." "How does that work?" he asked. Viv shrugged and glanced back to Fear, who was slowly walking closer. He looked over to her angrily, but held back his tone as he said, "You got an answer for that, Reva?" Fear's head lurched back. She looked at Viv, then back at Jax.
I don't really know how to explain it. A lot of the stuff I could do when I made demons was just intuitive. Like, I knew what to do and how to do it, but didn't know why it worked. So, kinda useless answer, sorry.
Both Viv and Jax did a double take hearing her say, sorry. Viv tried to act like she wasn't shocked as her phone rang. Through it, a voice called,
"Final Girl, is that you?"
Yes, Commander Wiggins. You're not gonna believe this, but I managed to catch Jax and Reva and pull my chute. We're all a bit banged up, but we're alive."
"You're right, I don't believe that. That's impossible."
A familiar, furious voice snarled through the phone.
"Sorry about that. Got you on speakerphone. I managed to take the plane down in a controlled crash, but bad news. As you can hear, Clayton survived the impact. You're a miracle worker, Final Girl. Glad you weren't the Final Girl this time. Turn on your phone's tracker so we can get your location. Got a chopper coming in to get us back to America to catch another ride, but it'll take a few hours. Do you need any immediate medical attention?"
Viv turned back to Fear. "Reva, how's your shoulder?" Fear seemed a little shocked by the question. It's fine." Barely audibly, she whispered.
I heal fast, it'll be gone by the time we see them.
Viv looked to Jax. He shrugged as if to say he was fine. "I think we're all good, Commander."
"Okay. We probably got too far away for y'all to walk to, but see if you can get to any kind of shelter. No idea how many more demons are gonna try and snatch up poor Reva, but if she senses any coming, run or fight him, your call. We gotta keep that child safe.
Viv replied, "Got it. We'll get moving and let you know where we end up." She hung up. "Okay, I won't turn on the tracker yet. Let's fly closer to whatever town might be nearby. Then turn it on. They don't know where we landed, so for all they know, we could have landed near a safe place to wait."
I don't think we should do that,
Fear said, surprisingly cautiously.
There are still more of Leviathan's demons hunting me. They might not find us before the helicopter arrives, but if they do, it's probably better for us to fight them out here. He's shown that he's fine with them attacking out in the open, so we're putting more innocent people at risk if we wait in a town full of others.
A hopeful smile spread across Viv's face. That is a very good point. So, can you actually track demons? She rocked her head back and forth.
Sort of. I can sense them nearby and get a general idea of their powers when they're close. But the farther they are, the more vague the information I have becomes.
She suddenly crossed her legs, sitting in midair, floating.
I'll do a quick sweep of the area around us to get a better idea of how close some of the other demons might be. I'll be back.
Viv was about to offer to come with her, but then remembered she was down one wing, and didn't know when it would grow back. Besides, leaving Jax on his own didn't feel fair, especially without his bat to defend himself. Fear floated up through the trees and out of sight. "What are the odds she just doesn't come back?" Jax muttered. "I think she will. I hope she will," Viv replied. Jax stepped in front of her. "What's your angle here? I mean, besides the obvious, if this whole Demonotrix thing works and we can help Koshmar and her friends take down the Archons, I mean, sure, that'd be great and all, but what's with this whole giving Fear solid ground thing? I know she's done so many horrible things, but I really have this sense that she wants to do better, but she wasn't going to be willing to try unless she felt like anyone would actually forgive her. She needed hope that anyone could ever consider her to be a good person again, and as much as I hate what she did to me and her idea that she was helping anyone by making her demons torture them, I honestly think there is a chance she could be good. I mean, in her own twisted way, she sort of had good intentions, right? Making people's lives better by making them face their fears? Maybe I'm being way too optimistic, but imagine what could happen if I'm right. With Fear teaching us how to use the Demonotrix to its fullest potential, and her helping us track demons, we might even be able to wipe out all demons for good. You're right, that does sound too optimistic. But if there's a chance it could work, I guess it's worth a try. And I like that idea too. Just hope we don't get ourselves or any other hunters killed figuring out if it's true. Viv turned on the tracker on her phone, and they just waited. Fear returned 15 minutes later and said there were no demons close by, so their odds of being attacked were low. 5 hours of waiting and pacing later, Tamika called back and directed Viv and her crew to an open area where the chopper could land. Tamika and Clayton were already inside and had salvaged a few important things they needed from the plane, including Jax's baseball bat, which he was very happy not to have lost. They all got in the chopper, and Clayton tried to interrogate them about how exactly Viv's miraculous rescue had gone down. Thankfully, they'd taken the time to get their story straight, even ditching one of Viv's throwing knives, saying she'd lost it in her fight against the flying demons. Clayton started asking some difficult questions, but luckily Tamika shut him down so that Reva could sleep. Viv was pretty sure Fear was just going to pretend to sleep to get Clayton off her back, but soon found that the Demon Queen genuinely passed out, with her head resting against Viv's shoulder. It was so strange seeing her in such a vulnerable light. Theoretically, Viv could transform into a demon right then, pull out a stinger and impale Fear, likely ending her right there and getting enough praise for killing the Demon Queen that even Clayton may overlook her demon form. Viv didn't do it, but found the idea pretty tempting. For much of that ride, she just wondered, is there a limit to how worthy someone can be of redemption? Fear had killed and hurt so many people. Even if she became a saint here and now, would that be enough? Or could she do nothing but good deeds for the rest of her life and still have people think she was a monster? The thoughts churned like a whirlpool for most of the first and second flights. When they'd landed back at an airport in San Diego, they transferred onto another Coalition jet, and Tamika took over flying again. From there, they flew across the country to the East Coast and off to the Predator Coalition Island, on which was a massive mansion-like building, where the core of the Coalition was run. By the time they landed behind the long white building, partially covered by trees, Fear was awake, but still not saying much. Viv imagined Jax was tense about walking into the Coalition base with the Demon Queen in their midst. Viv thought that with her being used to concealing a demon form at this base, she wouldn't be that nervous. But she was wrong. The gravity of what she was doing started sinking in. If Fear did anything stupid or just turned on Viv, both their secrets could be out and people would know that not only was Viv a demon, but she had snuck Fear herself into their base of operations. If she had any chance of people overlooking her past and her demon form, it would vanish just like that. Still, Viv was in this now. She was committed and had to move forward as confidently as she could. They all walked off the short concrete runway and stepped onto a cobblestone path between the trees towards the back doors. A middle-aged man with round glasses sped out of the building towards Tamika. "Commander Wiggins, as requested, I've arranged a room for Reva, and there is..." Tamika grabbed the man, aggressively pulled him close, and kissed him. Paul, it's been too long." He blushed and pushed his glasses farther up his face. "It's been one day, honey. Commander." Paul and Tamika had each lost their spouses in the past, and each had daughters of their own, Bailey and Grace. Tamika and Grace had been targeted by a demon called Pediobel, who went after those with a fear of dolls, which was funny for Viv to think about, Tamika having once been afraid of something like that. Or afraid of anything, really. Despite knowing nothing about demons at the time, Tamika had managed to kill the demon with a shotgun her late husband had given her, which had a fair amount of sentimental value. She later saved Paul and Bailey from a cat demon called Dolorifine, who worked under Zuphiathan, making her a target of the demon general. Zuphiathan sent a whole wave of animal demons to hunt Tamika down at a farm she was staying at, but thankfully, Koshmara had gotten wind of the attack and brought a friend to help Tamika fight off the demons. After the battle was done, Koshmara suggested Tamika come work for the Coalition. Tamika agreed and had prior military experience. Using that, she rose through the ranks of the Coalition, gaining most people's respect incredibly quickly to become the commander of operations. It made Viv nervous that now 2 targets of Zuphiathans were on the Coalition island, but if he'd never attacked here to get Tamika, he wouldn't try now. Would he? Tamika and Paul had tried to make long-distance work when Tamika joined the Coalition, but eventually just decided to move him and their daughters out to the Coalition base, as Zuphiathan wasn't above targeting the loved ones of those he wanted to get to. Professionally, Paul is now essentially Tamika's assistant. He tried to keep his actions purely professional while on duty, but Tamika not so much. They all continued towards the back doors, as Paul said, "Now, as I was saying, a room has been arranged for Reva. I can take her there, but you have a bit of a surprise meeting, dear." "Not my favorite kind of meeting, especially on no sleep. Better be with someone interesting or I'm gonna pass out mid-conversation." Paul replied, "It's with a couple of members of Koshmara's team. Do you recall Professor Dresden Oakland and Alexis Jones?" Viv suddenly felt a hand clamp around her wrist. Before even looking down, she smelled the stench of fear wafting up again. Reva's face was frozen, but she sent a thought into Vivianne's head.
"I've got to get out of here right now."
A little bit less action-packed and spooky of a Fear of the Demon Hunters episode, but I really like the dialogue that happened in here. And art-wise, it meant instead of doing a big scene, I could finally design Tamika. Anyway, I've got other series going right now, like Starseed Psyche and the Trismegistus Academy. The book release of Vigilance is finally coming up. And besides all that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote I read this week from someone named Manly P. Hall, who said, "If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you're determined to learn, nobody can stop you."
Don't think that one needs any fleshing out. So I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.